ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Welcome. So we have come to a verse in chapter 2, that is verse number 39, which is a very important verse of this entire scripture. And we have to very carefully try to understand the meaning. Here specifically Bhagavan introduces and he will explain this Buddhi Yoga. This is a very important word Bhagavan uses here, and he explains this term in the next few verses, that is verse number 39 to verse number 53. He will explain. So first we will chant verse number 39 and then we will try to explain. एषा ते विहिता सांख्ये बुद्धिर्योगे त्विमां शृणु बुद्ध्या युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहास्यसि। एषा, all this, te unto you, abhihita described, sankhye by analytical study, buddhihi intelligence, yoge in work without fruitive results, to but imam this, shrunu just hear, buddhya by intelligence, yuktaha, dovetailed, yaya, by which, partha, O son of Pritha, karma bandham, bondage of reaction, prahasyasi, you can be released from. Translation. Thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Okay. So as we just said, this term Buddhi Yoga is very, very important in this verse. What is Buddhi Yoga? Buddhi Yoga is the knowledge of yoga by which one acts without hankering for the fruits of activities. Or in other words, it is the service for the cause of the Lord. And we see Bhagavan says in the last verse also, in verse number 38, about equanimity. So, samatva, we can see that this equanimity or samatva comes automatically when we do all our actions to please the Lord. And therefore, Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga can be considered as the practice of devotional service also. Why? Because without devotion in our heart, action will become self-motivated. We will even not understand how, but it will happen so. And that will yield fruitive results unknowingly. So, Buddhi Yoga is the transcendental quality of work performed in divine consciousness. Now, we can also take reference from other chapters of Bhagavad Gita where Bhagavan again explains about Buddhi Yoga. The first reference we can take from Bhagavad Gita's 10th chapter, verse number 10. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Yeah, Bhagavan says that those who are constantly devoted, the entire verse is tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So Bhagavan says that those who are constantly devoted in serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. We know that Bhagavan dwells in the cage of our heart as Paramatma, and by his special mercy, Anugraham, he destroys the darkness of ignorance in our heart by the shining lamp of knowledge. So, if we can satisfy the Lord without thinking of our own choices or the fruits of activities, and always ready to accomplish the most difficult task also, then we are actually working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga. And we can take a reference from chapter number 12, which is known as Bhakti Yoga. There, Bhagavan says something from verse number 8 to verse number 12 that we must consider in this connection. Bhagavan says that please fix your mind and engage all your intelligence in me. Mayi eva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya. Nivasishyasi mameva ata urdhvam na samshaya. Thus he will live in me forever and ever, undoubtedly. See, this is the highest stage of Bhakti Yoga, what Bhagavan says in this verse. Why the highest stage? Because in this platform, there is perfect knowledge of the self, of the Supreme Lord, of the relationship, of Kala, Prakriti, everything. So then Bhagavan says that if you cannot fix your mind without deviation, then practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. And in this way, you will develop a desire to attain me. Now, what kind of practice here Bhagavan means to say? See, this practice, abhyasa, is, as Bhagavan says, that regulative principles. He means, that is, it is without knowledge. It is without knowledge. That we will explain when we come to verse number 12 of that chapter 12. Then Bhagavan says that if you are also incapable to practice these regulative principles, then try to work for me. Working for me will lead you to perfection. That is to seva, to please the Lord. Here we can share a very beautiful story of Jajali Rishi and Tuladhara Vaishya in this connection to understand this. Jajali Rishi was a very austere sage who was doing severe austerity and meditation, so much so that his hair becomes a bird's nest. And the birds came out from the eggs in his hair locks only. But in spite of that, he could not attain the Supreme Lord. But on the other hand, Tuladhara Vaishya was just a mere businessman. But he honestly did the business to please the Lord only. There was no hankering for fruitive results or anything for his own. So we can conclude that any work that we perform should be taken as a service to the Lord. Any kind of work. It is the consideration that is there in our mind. It concludes what kind of highest benefit we are going to get. Spiritual benefit. And then Bhagavan says, if however you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all the results of your work and try to be self-situated. And then Bhagavan concludes in verse number 12 that knowledge is higher than practice, dhyana is higher than knowledge, and renunciation of fruits of action is even greater than that, even superior to dhyana, knowledge, practice, everything. So why Bhagavan is saying this? That we will try to analyze a little bit. Practice or abhyasa is mechanical. Suppose when we are ordered or advised to chant Devī by our Guru Maharaj. Initially we do it mechanically. We don't feel like to japa, we feel sleepy and all these things, but still we try. So it is little mechanical, but when little knowledge is added to it, then it becomes more lively. When we come to know the tattvas, then we understand the necessity of practice. And in chapter 13 also, Bhagavan says, when Bhagavan gives 20 characteristics of a jnani, that is a man of knowledge, Maicha bhaktir avyabhicharini, Bhagavan says, when he is saying about the attributes of a jnani. Maicha bhaktir avyabhicharini, which means a true jnani, that is a man of knowledge, will be a bhakta, and vice versa. So doing bhakti is not just sentiment but ultimate need. When we understand this, then after having this knowledge, it so happens that initially a sadhaka likes to think about the Lord. It is just at the stage of liking. But as the time goes on, it so happens that without thinking of the Lord, one cannot stay. So this is dhyana. This is dhyana. That is a fructification of knowledge, we can say. Then he chants continuously and does not feel like to stop even, or meditate continuously. So he is actually absolutely lost in the vibration of the holy name of the Lord. Japa meditation I am talking about. So we see that according to Patanjali Rishi, it is said that pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam, that is, it is uninterrupted thoughts of the Lord. So jnana is a karana and dhyana is the karya. So jnana is the cause and dhyana is the action. And then Bhagavan says that renunciation of fruits of activities is the highest. Why? Because as we see, more than practice, jnana, knowledge is superior to practice, as we just came to learn. And why, that also we understood. So now when Bhagavan says that renunciation of fruits and activities is the highest, then in this stage a sadhaka can feel that he has no separate existence. Instead, he is completely dependent on the Lord. He feels and acts, he actually then feels that he is just an instrument and acts according to the Lord's wishes. So we see this stage is the most beautiful and peaceful, thoughtless and egoless state that we all must strive to achieve. So we can understand from Lord's glorification of Karma Yoga in the upcoming verses also, that the highest stage of Karma Yoga is actually Bhakti Yoga. In this scripture, it is established by the Lord in different ways. So the process of renunciation of fruits and activities is spontaneous in Bhakti Yoga. We did not to struggle for that. And when there is knowledge and devotion in the heart, it is very easy. So when one is truly working to satisfy the Lord, there cannot be selfish motive for the actions he is doing. And therefore there is no question of attachment to the fruits of the activities. And as we see that in the beginning of the chapter, Bhagavan tells Arjuna about Jnana Yoga. He is reminding him about the Swadharma, that is the prescribed duties. But nothing could inspire Arjuna and could help him to come out of the perplexed state of mind. But ultimately, Arjuna is going to fight the battle on this principle of Buddhi Yoga. This principle of Buddhi Yoga. So it is very important for us also to understand. Okay, so as it will continue till verse number 53, the explanation of Buddhi Yoga in different ways, we will now move on to verse number 40. नेहाभिक्रमनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. Now there is not iha in this yoga, abhikrama in endeavoring, nashaha loss, asti there is, pratyavayaha diminution, na never, vidyate there is, sualpam a little, api although, asya of this, dharmasya occupation, trayate releases, mahataha from very great, bhayat danger. Translation: in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and the little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Okay, so Bhagavan says it is an endeavor with no loss, only gain, which means a little advancement is added in the account, and if one leaves the body, the present body, this present material body, before reaching the goal also, then he starts the next life from that advanced level. And Bhagavan proves this in chapter 6, verses 41 to 44. There Bhagavan says, I'm not going through the verses, I am just giving the meaning, what Bhagavan says in those verses. Verse 41 to 44, chapter number 6. Bhagavan says that if it happens that without reaching the goal, one leaves the present body, then in the next life, he is born in the families of righteous people, or born in the families of transcendentalists, perfect in knowledge and devotional service, and therefore gets spiritual impetus from the very beginning of the life. And then automatically we see there is a revival of his divine consciousness, and he is engaged in sincere endeavor from the very beginning of his life, which means he gets attracted to yogic practices automatically, and therefore he transcends the ritualistic principles mentioned in the scriptures. So undoubtedly he is elevated to the higher spiritual platform. That is why Bhagavan says that this is such an endeavor with no loss, only gain. Okay, so with this we will move on to verse number 41. व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिरेकेह कुरु नन्दन बहुशाखा ह्यनन्ताश्च बुद्धयो व्यवसायिनम्. Vyavasaya Atmika, resolute in Krishna consciousness, Buddhihi, intelligence, Eka, only one, Iha, in this world, Kurunandana, O beloved child of the Kurus, Bahushakhaha, having various branches, he indeed Anantaha, unlimited. Cha, also. Buddhayaha, intelligence. Avyavasainam, of those who are not in Krishna consciousness. Translation: those who are not, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Bahu shakha hi anantascha. Okay. So here in this verse particularly we see this vyavasayatmika buddhi is very important. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana, Bhagavan says. Vyavasayatmika buddhi is resolute faith, means unflinching trust in something sublime. That is vyavasayatmika buddhi, the intelligence by which one remains in unwavering faith in something sublime. So who are practicing Buddhi Yoga, their aim is only one, and that is the elevation to the highest perfection of life, that is the highest spiritual platform. And when one is fixed in that supreme consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his actions, for he is no longer subject to dualities like good or bad, etc. So the material conception of life completely goes away while working in this level. Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabhaha, as Bhagavan says. So a person in supreme consciousness is the very rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifestation. Sarva karana karanam. And by watering the root of a tree, the water will be distributed in all parts of the tree. So if we act in the consciousness to please the Lord, then we can automatically render the highest service to everyone. That is our own self, our family, our society, our community, country, and humanity on the whole. So if the Lord is satisfied, then the whole creation will be satisfied. So we should be resolute in purpose. The purpose of having unflinching trust in the divine consciousness or rendering loving service for the cause of the Supreme Lord. I think it will be better for us to stop here, because the next 3 verses we will have to study together. So it will not be possible to complete in time. Okay, so thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.